the growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
God's up. Hey, giddy up. Welcome to the Failure to Stop podcast. Flagship Friday, baby. That's right. You know what that means. We're going to be hitting a case breakdown of sorts. And today, it's going to be how drunk was Paul Pelosi and can Tansey be as drunk as him live on the show? This could either go really well or really badly. We don't know. This is Eric pitched the idea. I wouldn't do it, but he said he would, so I'm holding him to it. So that's what's up today. If you are just listening to the show or watching it live on YouTube at 11 a.m. here on Fridays, where we go live every Friday, then welcome to the show. It's where law enforcement meets culture. We've got 4 different shows per week. Fridays is our case breakdowns, where we take a case now or in the past and kind of break down the police response and help you understand it from a law enforcement perspective. Mondays, we have Off the Cuff with myself and Dave. We cover law enforcement related news. Tuesday nights, you've got Eric and Andrea covering true crime. They just wrapped up the murder series live on YouTube at 8 p.m. on Tuesday nights. The audio hits Wednesdays. And then on Thursdays, you get Last Call, where Tansey's interviewing cool people, having normal, everyday conversations so that you can be a normal person at those parties when you're off shift on a weekend, which is as short-staffed as everybody is a rarity these days. But that's the show, guys. Keep on liking, keep on subscribing. If you want to support it, you can go to failuretostop.com, grab yourself some merch. You can become a member on YouTube with Discord perks and live streams to the shows that we don't live stream. You can watch them as we record them. All sorts of fun stuff. How you doing, Tansey?
Doing good, man. I'm trying to build myself up, trying to psych myself up for this afternoon. I woke up with my wife this morning and she was like, "Hey, honey," in
as
about
opposed
3
to
hours,
someone else.
Yeah, I wasn't cheating on her this time. I was
Okay.
actually sleeping with my wife.
Usually it's a guy's name when you tell these stories, but
yeah, I wasn't sleeping with Steve this time. But no, we woke up this morning.
God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Dude, I had that shirt when I was a kid and had no idea what it even meant. And I used to wear it to school all the time.
I
like
100%
in 6th grade.
believe that.
Like, I don't know. I don't think anybody cared that I wore it. Like, nobody even acknowledged the shirt. I remember getting it as a gift from
That's
Myrtle
because everybody
Beach.
agreed.
I guess.
Out of all the shirts I've seen you wear, that was probably one of the most tame.
That was the most tame. I used to have a shirt that said, it was a bright pink shirt and it just said Jacksonville is gay. And it was and it was for a hash run. I did the Hash House Harrier thing.
Wait, what is that? Like marijuana hash? Like Indian
No,
smoke
a hash run. The
hashish?
Hash House Harriers was a running group that started in Africa, and the British couldn't get the a British captain couldn't get his men to participate in physical exercise, and they were rationed beer, but there wasn't enough beer for everybody. So what he did was he would start placing the beer in various parts of the run, and if you got to the beer first, you got to have it. Now the problem with that is all the in shape dudes would try really hard to get to the beer, and the guys who weren't in shape would just be like, I'm not going to win the beer anyway. And so they would double down on being fat and lazy. So then the captain got even more creative, and he's like, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create false trails and false paths, and they're going to have to use like whistles and things like that. And so even the slow guy, so if you're in front, you might take a false trail, get to the end of the trail, and there not be any beer there. And then he would blow his whistle. But by that time, the fat kids would have caught up, and then they would know that that's not the right trail. So the in shape dude would have to double back, and that would give them equal opportunity to all be at the beer at the same time. So it ended up becoming a worldwide running group called the Hash House Harriers, and every major town probably in the world has a hash group, or, within reason, like Germany's got them, Spain's got them. It gets pretty crazy. So you can, they make you run through drive-throughs and sing a song, and there's a bunch of games, and it's like a fraternity of runners. It gets pretty crass. That's why I'm not allowed to do it anymore. Because I'm a different, if you have kids and you have a family, you should not house, because a lot of times there's nudity involved and, all sorts of things. But anyway,
sounds like kind of running group.
They did a Hash House Harrier run in Jacksonville and they were putting it on. It was a red dress run. Everybody had to wear a red dress, run down the beach. And there's usually thousands of people. Well, they do like, just like any race, like a shirt with all the sponsors and everything. But I guess the Jacksonville chapter didn't have any sponsors, and like some lawyer chick funded the whole thing, and she didn't want her name attached to it. So their shirt was just bright pink, and it just said Jacksonville is gay. And nobody knew, like, there was no context to it. It just, that was it. Jacksonville is gay. On that. You couldn't hate on it. It was bright pink. And I used to wear that shirt all the time in Jacksonville, Florida. And so many people would be like, what does your shirt mean? I'm like, I don't know. What does it mean to you? And they would be like, they didn't know if they were like angry or they were like sad or laughing. It was quite the shirt, but I enjoy wearing it.
I was outed by my daughter as gay this week. So I came into my office and on my whiteboard, it said, "You are gay." And
I saw that picture on
yeah. So I didn't realize that's how I would find out, but I'm working through that. Why don't you introduce the sexy bald man trying to compete with me here over to your right? and if you're just listening, trust me, he's a sexy bald man.
So this is a good buddy of mine. Am I allowed to call you a good buddy, I guess?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's try it.
You can accept that, right? He's a good buddy of mine. His name is Cameron. We worked together in a former life, but he is he's a training guy. He does a lot of training for departments and training for civilians, and he's still active law enforcement, but he is a DWI guru. What's the term?
I guess I used to be kinda, but yeah, I spent almost 6 years on a full-time DWI unit. So nothing but night shift. Yeah. Nothing but night shift for
no thanks.
6 years. And I mean, honestly, I loved it. It's kind of one of those deals where, you know, they tell you in the academy or whatever, hey, you're never going to know when the best time of your career is until you look back. And looking back, that was a really fun time.
I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's it just doesn't work out that way, but yeah, it was a blast. We basically had grant funded 4 officers and a supervisor, and just turn you loose during the night hours and go out and find impaired people and lock them up. So it was fun for me. I mean, a lot of cops, I guess I should say, do not enjoy doing DWI work. I heard you, Mike, say, "Oh my God," when I said something about.
Well, I had a competition one year with one of my lieutenants. Awesome dude. We actually just did some filming with him. He's doing a special needs. He does a hockey training, blue line hockey. So him and his brother grew up playing hockey, so they do that. And then they are running this special needs camp for hockey, and they just started it. And so we did some filming to promote their stuff going on. But he was my lieutenant early on in my career, and we did a contest one year as to who could get, you know, the most drunks. And we had kind of a busier department, so we kind of had to wait till things quieted down, you know, at 2 or 3 in the morning to go start hunting, you know, which kind of is fish in a barrel. If people are out at 3 in the morning on a weekend, you stand a pretty decent chance of just pulling over 5 cars and one of them's going to have a
yeah. You're either stopping the UPS worker, the guy slinging papers out the window, or someone who's hammered.
I actually got in trouble. But I got sick of drunks. I just got sick of dealing with drunk people.
I got in trouble one year because I didn't write a single DUI. And my eval for the year said, needs to write more DUIs in the future. I think I wrote I probably gave 6 DUIs in the 8 years that I was there, 7 years, 7.5 years that I was there.
Hard charger.
I probably wrote 8 DUIs. I did pass them off a lot, which is why I brought Cameron on today, because I admittedly have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to charging DUIs. Somebody in the comments said that DWIs suck because it's too much work for a misdemeanor. I agree. It is a lot of work. It's easier to process a murder or a stabbing victim than it is to process a DWI. So
yeah, but there's so much money involved in OWIs or DWIs that is what has created the need to have all of these I's to dot and T's to cross, because there's so much freaking money involved.
And the cool thing is, if you are a DUI specialist, that means you are also a paperwork specialist. So your DUI guy is also the guy that you want checking over your reports and shit. Because
your blood search warrants.
I can name about 4 sergeants right now, which I want won't do that will tell you I am not a paperwork specialist.
Okay. But
You do need to be one, but administrative
You could just
work is,
outsource it all like Eric did for his
Man,
wife.
that
Just
would be
outsource
awesome.
all of your paperwork. Have
That
him
would
send
be
it back
awesome.
over.
I did
and honestly,
get in trouble
since you left, Eric, I mean, most of the DWI paperwork now is online. Like it's not, you don't have near as many.
That would not help Eric at all.
Yeah.
Eric would not be helped by
Yeah,
anything being
That's true.
online.
He would just be drawing on his computer.
I'm
Well-
typing online. Eric, those are
Yeah.
your fingers. You
Well,
can't do that.
The reason why I brought him on today is because we're talking about Paul Pelosi, that's Nancy Pelosi's husband, who got a DUI May 28th of this year.
Hey, hold on. We
And-
got to do our reviews.
Oh, okay. But I'm just introducing him. So Paul Pelosi, long story short, he's going to get a DUI. And so a lot of the contention here is that he was only a 0.08. He was at the limit. So I myself was like, yeah, I mean, he's at the limit. Let him go. You know what I mean? It's like if you catch a fish and you're a game warden and you're right at the 27-inch mark, you know, I'm
If you
probably
catch a fish and you're a game warden, you're not working.
no, I'm sorry. If you catch a fish and a game warden comes and measures
Oh,
it,
okay,
and the limit is 27 inches, but you're 27 and a quarter, probably going to let you take that fish home.
Yeah.
Now other people will say no. So thinking about DWI, the same thing is I was always, before I was a cop, I would always say if they're 0.08, they win, right? Like they're not over it. They're not over the limit. And then I kind of started, arresting people that were drunk, and then you get them in their 0.08 and you're like, man, they're really drunk. How drunk is 0.08? So today, after we get done with all these reviews and stuff, homeboy over here is going to get me to a 0.08 by the end of this show, which I guess we
Safely
should
and
just
for
start
educational
that
purposes.
I should
process.
start doing that. Yeah.
Can we just start that before you do the reviews really quick, Mike? Because if I don't start drinking right this second, it's going to be very hard for me to catch up. So can we knock out the pre-birth test and everything?
Yeah, let's.
While you do the
get
reviews?
let's get your first.
Tell 'em what you're
drink
gonna
in
do
or
with me.
Whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is give you a alcohol screen testing device, commonly known as a PBT. It's basically runs off the same technology as the Intox instrument that the police would take somebody down and have them breathe into. It's just a handheld version, and we're just going to prove to you real quick that Eric is starting to.
Now, I did start the morning off with a couple of bites from a salami sandwich. This happened in Napa, California, at a winery. So I've got food that you would find at a winery. So cheese, some pastrami, some salami, and some red meat. And then I also have a Napa. Boy,
What a good.
that was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
zeros.
All right, so I'm at zeros.
All zeros. Now,
All zeros.
Now this is going to be a good opportunity for us as we kind of we'll weave in and out of the Paul Pelosi case, but we will also talk about the process of being able to arrest someone for drunk driving, differences in some state laws. We'll talk about the PBT. We'll talk about the data master or whatever the equivalent is there in North Carolina. I don't know if there's different brand names for the actual instrument there. When would you get blood or urine versus the breath? We'll talk about some of the details of that too, just so that you guys are educated and understand, because there is still, it's crazy to me how much misinformation is out there in 2022 about, just about everything. But even now, you would think it would be really common knowledge about some of this stuff, and most people don't know. But let's thank the Wolf Pack for their review time. What do we got? Kyle EK 7882 5 stars says, us. these guys get it. This isn't fake news. This is real news. Keep it coming. Every episode is better than the last. Wow. We just keep on getting better. I didn't even know we were getting better, but
I'm going
Kyle
to keep
said
it
so.
coming.
Ew. All right. And HK Rim 5 stars. So refreshing. Best show that offers a middle-of-the-road, honest review of controversial policing events and issues. I look forward to this show daily. Keep up the great work. We will, HK. Thank you. And please send me an H and K. Yeah, send me an H and K. I hope you're related to the family, the owners. Send me all the guns. Thank you. All right. What do we got on Paul Pelosi here?
Well, first of all, Paul Pelosi was arrested for a DWI on May 28th at around 10 p.m., coming home from a wine dinner. Now, Fox News made this very salacious. And I don't know that it's as salacious as it should have been, but there definitely is some things that we should question about this DUI, which is why we wanted to do it. Also, what I think was odd is that yesterday was the arraignment where he was going to plead guilty or not guilty. By the way, Nancy would have been 3,000 miles away. So one of the things that Fox News was going to bring up is, why are you at a wine dinner without your wife 3,000 miles away? That's odd. The dude's fucking 80 years old. I don't think he's cheating on old Nancy. Plus, we saw Nancy's knockers as she was walking down the beach in that bathing suit. When that picture came out from the paparazzi, I'm telling you, an 80-year-old man's probably not cheating on her at this point in his life. Also, I've been to wine dinners without my wife 1,000 times. So I don't know that that's bombshell news. So we'll just go ahead and throw that out the window. I don't think that was nefarious. They live in San Francisco, just right around the bend from Sonoma County and Napa, which are two of the most prestigious wine appellations or wine regions in the United States. So he goes to this wine dinner and he has a couple of glasses of wine over about the course of a couple hours. So as you would go out to a restaurant and have a couple of glasses of wine in about an hour or so, which is exactly what the show is, I will also be having wine, and we'll see what a couple of glasses of wine I'm going to. So he leaves this wine thing around 10 p.m., which is not that late, in his Porsche Carrera, humble brag, and he blows through a stop sign. We have a picture of it, and collides with another vehicle. And minor injuries. And at the time they said there were no injuries, but then the next day the gentleman woke up and of course his arm hurts, he's having headaches.
Well, he woke up and realized it was Paul Pelosi that hit him.
Right. So
then shit's going to start hurting real quick.
Again, what's kind of happening in this whole Breonna Taylor escapade, what's also happening in the whole Uvalde thing, which is happening all across the country, which is why I preach so much on perception and how we have to stop this mess, is that Fox News, who's just as guilty as anybody else, says they lied. They lied to us and they said that there were no injuries. But now we see in bombshell report that there are now injuries. Come on, guys. Anybody that gets in a fender bender, you're going to wake up, you're going to be a little bit stiff. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
A little bit crampy, oh, my head hurts. That's not a serious injury. Now, I don't know what the law is in North Carolina when it comes to DWIs, but if you were to give somebody real quick a DUI from getting in a car accident where somebody might have had these kind of moans and groans, are you charging him with a felony DUI at that point for serious injuries?
No, we usually let the DA decide that. We'll take real good notes and let the DA decide. We'll charge the DWI portion and any other Chapter 20 traffic violations, but we're probably not making the felony decision on the scene.
Right. So again,
what if the people that they hit are now missing a leg? Do you go ahead and charge them with a felony?
It really just depends on, obviously where we are here is a different county than where I work, but in Wake County, you're probably still just going to take really good notes and let the DA decide what charges exactly you're going to be hooking them up with.
So again, not very salacious, but if you watch the news, they really are trying to trigger these emotions to try to make you think that there is nefarious activity going on. Again, with the whole Breonna Taylor thing, it's a matter of paperwork. And did the cops lie in the Pelosi thing where they said that there wasn't any injuries, or did they just document that there weren't apparent serious injuries? That's not a lie. They reported in their notes that there was no serious injury. It's not their fault that the guy woke up the next day and decided he wanted to have a back problem. And I'm sure he did have back problems. I mean, when you get in a car wreck, things tend to hurt. That doesn't make the cops liars. That doesn't make this a more nefarious activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Fox News and all the news likes to do this with every case, and it's poisoning everybody because we're throwing around words like cowards and liars and conspiracies and all these things when you really look at it, this is news that could just be brought to you without emotion, without trying to trigger you, because we could do it factually, and then that way we don't have something that's blown way out of proportion. Now, also, Fox News reported without naming the source that he handed them a premium sponsorship card saying that he was a donor to the California state troopers. I don't know if that's true. I don't believe that Fox knows if that's true or not. I do think what is odd is that the police department or the DA has decided not to release the body camera footage. I think that, a lot of these myths could be dispelled if they would just release that body camera footage. It's very funny because the DA gave a press conference and she said, we're not releasing the body camera footage because it's evidence in an ongoing investigation. Now that's really funny because we demand as a society and politicians demand that we see body camera footage way before a trial. Think about all the recent cases in the last couple of months where we demand to see all of the footage all right now. But in a time when it's a DUI involving the Pelosi's, the DA wants to be respectful and say, yeah, we just don't release that because it's evidence. Now, I agree that you should not release body camera footage before the trial. I think that stuff comes after the trial. I don't think the citizens necessarily have a right for that transparency because I think it does retard the trial. I think it does retard things, that the evidence. There's too many cases where a jury can be influenced without
absolutely. It makes it harder and harder to find an unbiased pool of people.
I agree with Honey Badger.
Right. So Honey Badger says I'm talking too much, and that I should drink more. So anyway, that is the story.
You're gonna need to do that.
That is the story of the Paul Pelosi thing.
Well, while you drink, let's talk about I think the first thing that we can talk about as far as police response with DWI, and let's start there. There's drunk driving. That's the common name, drunk driving, but some states have driving while, you'll hear DWI or DUI, driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated. Other states have operating. So Michigan would be different. They have an operating while intoxicated, OWI, which means that if you power the vehicle in any way, if you are in control of the power of the vehicle, then, and you are under the influence above the legal limit, then you are OWI. So that's a distinction that needs to be, I think, an education point for you guys. Then you're either going to be able to be pulled over because of driving habits that are violations of the law and consistent with suspicion of driving while intoxicated. Or in this case, you get called to an accident where you're going to find out after the fact, or you can just pull over a normal traffic stop for one single violation, and all of a sudden you smell what they would call the odor of intoxicants. You're not going to read in a good police report, he smelled like booze. You're gonna read the odor of intoxicants. There's all sorts of reasons for this, but speak to some of those things for us, our resident DRE expert, our drunk expert, on some of those things to educate the general public on how you come upon drunk drivers.
Yeah. So first of all, somebody hit on it earlier in the podcast, but I think it was Eric, but DWI is a lot more work than if you go to a murder scene. I mean, it's a ton of work, and no cop, I can assure you that no cop is looking to arrest somebody who's famous or super important or whatever, and they're not out there hunting them, because that's even more paperwork. And you're going to have 10 sets of eyes look at your report before you hit that submit button, because if every I's not dotted and every T's not crossed, that's the stuff that the attorneys are going to hit on. And they're probably not even going to hit on it and for 8 to 10 months while you're sitting around waiting, at least around here, while you're sitting around waiting to go to trial. So basically how it would work when we would go out and, as you said, Mike, hunt drunks, you're driving around and you're just looking for regular traffic violations. Very rarely, I mean, I've arrested doing nothing but DWIs in downtown for almost 6 years, hundreds of impaired people. And very rarely are you articulating, I stopped them because they looked drunk.
Right.
That's, I mean, NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, allows you to say that. Like, they allow you to say they looked drunk. They were driving as if they looked drunk. But you can imagine in a courtroom how many follow-up questions come with that. So like, hey, describe to me what looked drunk looks like. Is
somebody's going to hold up a picture in court of Tansey, Alabama Tansey. Does this man look drunk to you?
Exactly. And there's so many follow-up questions that come with that. So you're looking for just the blatant violations. You're looking for somebody that's unable to maintain control of their lane. They're, so they're crossing over the double yellow line, or they're switching lanes without signaling, or they're riding the fog line. One very popular one for impaired people is they know that they shouldn't be running a red light or a stop sign. So they want to make dang sure that they're extra sure that they're stopping behind the stop bar. So you pull up to somebody and they're sitting 3 car lengths behind the stop bar. And you're like, yeah, man, you don't get bonus points for driving that if you stop way behind the stop bar. Another one, I tell a story all the time to the rookies that we have to teach for, hey, what are we looking for? I was coming out of downtown Raleigh one time, and there's a car in front of me who looked like they were kind of maintaining their lane, but they were using every bit of it. You know what I mean, Mike? They were line to line. So I got behind them. They're going 45 and a 45, which also no one does ever.
So is that a thing? 45 and a 45? You're like, you're going exactly the speed limit.
It's not an official thing, no. But so I get behind them, made sure that I was going exactly 45, keeping the distance between us the exact same. And then I just took my foot off the gas. And in about 2 miles, we got to where we were going 8 mile an hour down Capitol Boulevard. and this guy's watching me in his rearview mirror going 8 mile an hour. And so I stopped him and I said, hey, are you okay? And he said, yeah, why? And I said, well, you're going 8 mile an hour down US 1. And why are you going 8 mile an hour? He's like, well, you were going 8 mile an hour. Yeah, well, you were going 8 mile an hour. I was like, yeah, you were in front of me. Like, if I went more than 8 mile an hour, I would run over you. So, and then while you're talking to them, you're looking over the things that you were talking about, Mike. Hey, your breath smells like alcohol. In this case, breath smells like alcohol. They got bloodshot, watery eyes. You start asking them routine questions that everyone is prepared for from taking driver's ed. Hey, where do you keep your wallet? I keep it in my back left pocket. Okay, where do you keep your registration? That's in my glove box. Okay, well, can you go ahead and hand me your driver's license? Yeah, no problem. So they reach back and they look for their driver's license. And then you say, can you hand me your registration? They go, oh yeah, sorry. And they don't get their license. They just, you have completely interrupted their train of thought. And that's, we do 3 standardized field sobriety tests. And one thing that's not different from here to Michigan or wherever is there's 3 standardized field sobriety tests that everybody is going to be trained in if they take standardized field sobriety testing. And 2 of those 3 are divided attention tests. So
that there's a myth that we can dispose here is that we're not making people.
You're not blowing in my hat or counting. I can't say my alphabet backwards right now. If you made me do it, we're not making you, I'm not dropping $3 in change on the ground and making you pick up 47 cents. I mean, I've heard all the things, but
yeah, there's just 3 standard field sobriety tests. It's a walk and turn test, a one-leg stand, and ice 9 segments.
But before those existed, then good cops would always do the same things because before I was certified in standardized field sobriety tests, then the way that I was taught to handle drunk driving was to pay attention to every little thing. When you asked a basic question, did they have slurred speech? Like you're paying attention to how out of the norm their responses are to normal things that you would ask on a traffic stop. But then you can really do anything that you want,
right,
with someone as far as trying to determine, can they do a task? You can do that stuff. So I was advised to always just do the same things. Don't decide that on this traffic stop, you're going to do it this way. And on the next one, you're going to do it another way. Even though you're not certified in SFSTs yet, standardized field sobriety tests, you can still choose to do, all right, I want you to do, count backwards from 75 to 60 or something like that, or 77 to 63. I had numbers like written down in my notebook so that I always asked the same number, because what I was trying to avoid was if this went to court, that defense attorney wasn't going to be able to say, well, you specifically you must have somehow known that my client failed algebra 1 because
Right.
you asked him to count backwards from these numbers, but you asked this person 2 weeks ago this. So just consistency, but that's how field sobriety tests came to be standardized so that it was the same across. But not every cop is actually certified to do SFSTs.
No, and
I actually wish that I never had done it, because now once you are certified,
you're married
you have
to it.
to do it the right way, or
Yeah.
the whole case could be fall apart. So I kind of regretted doing it, because now I was bound to that system and had to do it all the right way, had to give the instructions the right way. Everything had to be standardized. So it kind of boxes you in.
So
Yeah,
I was
so-
a real smart ass. I had the card,
Yeah.
the DUI card.
Right. Yep.
And I would pull it out in front of like my camera
Just
and
read
just
it.
read it verbatim.
It's actually genius. As
And
long
then
as you
nobody,
can still
you
watch
know,
them.
But you know, all my rookies, when I was training rookies, they would all try to like, they would look at me and then they would talk and they would look at me and then they would talk and they would miss things and then they would start over and they'd be all nervous. I said, hey, homeboy, like you don't have to impress me. You got that card in your pocket. Pull that fucking thing out and just read it verbatim. Like I'm not going to take off. You know what I mean? Like nobody's going to pat you on the back because you remember you memorized the field sobriety test verbatim.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too is if you use it on the scene, if you want to sit there and read the instructions on the scene, then it's hard enough to remember those instructions as a rookie cop, 2 o'clock in the morning when you've been up since noon probably, and you're trying to maintain your tactical awareness, and you're trying to be safe, and you're trying to make sure the cars coming down the street aren't going to run into the back of you or whatever. So if you read it on the side of the street, then most court systems are like, well, he used it on the street, so he can use it here. So when they say, hey, Officer Tansey, can you give us the instructions for the walk and turn test? You're like, yeah, hang on a second. And you read it.
Mhm.
If that's how you do it every time. And Mike, what you were talking about earlier, those other tests, the counting or we call those pre-exit tests. So there's those 3 standardized field sobriety tests, but then there's a bunch of pre-exit tests, and you can kind of what you were alluding to, you can almost invent your own pre-exit tests as long as they're safe for you and them, and you're doing them the same way every time. So, there's all kinds of things that you can do there, but you got, finger dexterity where you say, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, or whatever. And impaired people have a hard time going through that. You can say, hey, can you say your alphabet starting with D and ending with P, and don't sing it? And you revert, you go back to your training, right? And your training is to sing the alphabet. I mean, I'm almost 39 years old, and if you have to ask me what comes after L, I'm going to go, and then tell you. So
LMNOP.
Right. Yeah, it still comes out. And that's what's funny is it with impaired people, even when they don't sing it, it still comes out as a song. Well, this won't be quite as melodic as it typically would be, but I'm going to sing it.
I laughed so many times because I would write down and I would go back on the body cam footage too and this is why like OWIs, DWIs, it's so intensive because you're like, you have the body cam and dash cam footage or whatever, so I would be recorded. I didn't have body cams. I had dash cams. So you go back and I write down in my report, I asked him to state the alphabet without singing it, from letter, whatever to whatever. And then I would have to write down in my report exactly what he said, and make sure like I'm writing it in my notebook. I'm going back and confirming with the dash cam, the audio. It's so detailed.
Oh yeah, I've done that for someone before, and obviously what you're trying to prove is that they can't do that because they're impaired. And then in court they go, I could do that right now. And you're like, perfect. You just proving my point. If you can say it now without singing it, that's outstanding. So, it's a mess. I mean, the DWI stuff is a mess, but Tansey doesn't give himself enough credit. He's actually one of the few Southeast Raleigh cops that I can say I've watched his body camera footage of doing an SFSTs. And one of the things that made him such a good
bombshell news.
Yeah.
I reviewed his body camera. He does not read from the card like he just told you.
No. What made him such a good investigator when it came to DWIs is his smart ass nature. Because like he can be sarcastic and witty without letting the other person know he's sarcastic and witty. So kind of what you were talking about a minute ago, Mike, with the body cam footage, when somebody like Tansey says, hey, where are you coming from? And they go, Instill Distilling. And you're like, okay, great. Where are you going? And they're like, Clayton. And you're like, well, you're in Raleigh now. Like it probably would have been quicker to just stay there.
You were in Clayton.
Yeah.
Probably could have just hung out in Clayton for the evening, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting. Did you have an errand over here, or just like what's?
Yeah. 3 o'clock in the morning. What did you need? But there's, people all the time that say you stop them. Capitol Boulevard is our section of US 1. You stop them and you say, "Hey, where are you going?" And they point the direction they're going, and they go, "I'm going to Raleigh." And you're like, "Well, you're gonna have to go literally all around the whole world to get to Raleigh if you continue in this direction, because this is the opposite direction."
You're gonna keep going in that direction until you hit the ocean. You're gonna take a boat.
And you need to rent
Yeah,
a.
you don't
What
have
if
a
they said that though? What if you were like,
They
where
kept
you
going
going
with it.
Raleigh? And you're like, how are you gonna get there? Go in this direction. They're like, well,
They
I'm gonna
articulated
go
it
all the way to
perfectly.
Wilmington. I'm gonna get on a boat.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go all the way to Ethiopia.
Here's the deal. I'm going south. I realize Raleigh's north, but I'm going south. When I get to Key West, I'm going to take a boat
to Antarctica.
Taking this. What
well,
if they had?
try.
What if they had like a full detailed plan and they had just started their life bucket
Yeah.
list trip,
Yep.
and they're like, "Yeah, no, I'm traveling around the world. I'm circumnavigating it. I'll be traveling
Yeah.
through a variety of means. I've got a plane reserved that can land
know
on
what you're-
water."
I know
and
what
they
you're
just, like,
thinking here, Tansey.
Pull out their itinerary. I know
You
you think I'm drunk, but listen.
That would be my luck. That would be exactly what would happen to me. Oh, really? You're going to Raleigh? Well, tell me how you're going to get to Raleigh. 45 minutes later, I've got an entire itinerary. I've seen his passport. He's got like 17 different types of currency.
And then he finishes up. You're like, oh, all right. Well,
Have a good day.
have a nice night. And he's like, yeah, I got to sober up. I got an early flight.
See you later. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like, man, I
One of the
better
things
get
I
to
was-
bed.
One of the things I was hoping was going to make me this trip a lot easier is I'm hammered. See ya.
So
Oh,
yeah,
God.
that's about it, officer. I'm just gonna get hammered every day and go on this long trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be
I'm gonna be the
great.
first drunk man to navigate I'm gonna stay drunk the entire circumnavigation of the world.
One of my favorite things to do with drunks is have them throw their keys. And
Just anywhere? Or?
yeah, and I was, pretty good for it, and I made a good name for myself. A lot of people thought I was funny. People would show up on my DWIs just to watch me do it. But the look on somebody's face when you say, "All right, man, look, I think you've maybe overindulged tonight. I don't know. You're on something. I don't know what it is. But I don't feel comfortable with you driving. So we can either do all these tests, and I can determine that you've been doing something nefarious, or if you don't have any keys, ain't nothing I can do. So if you were to throw those keys as far as you can and we can't find them, I don't have a leg to stand on." And their face would be like, "Oh, you want me to throw my keys?" I'm like, "No, that'd be great. Yeah, throw your keys. I'll go away right now." And they're like, yeah, I can do that. And then they reach in, they find their keys, and then they look at me and they're like, well, how am I going to get home? And I'm like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Well, how far do I have to throw them?" And I'm like, "All right, put your keys back in your pocket. We're gonna do all these tests."
Let's
They
go
were-
to this. What was Paul Pelosi's PBT results?
So he was a 0.082, and
On the
there was
PBT or on the actual calibrated machine? Because
So
I want to
here's
talk
the-
about the difference between those two things too.
So here's the thing about this case, right? And DUIs and DWIs are so confusing, and this is why I don't do them. Because there's a lot of ways you can play this game. A lot of people say, well, I'm not going to breathe in the pre-breath test. I'm not going to do any field sobriety test, and I'm just going to take this one on the chin because that's what I've been told to do to get out of a DWI. This DWI, though, there's nothing. I can't even find the affidavit for this DWI. It took them forever to release a mugshot. They didn't release a mugshot for a hot minute until public outcry made them release. In San Francisco has one of those, if you get arrested, we're going to show your face to everybody. Well, Paul Pelosi wasn't on there. So there was a big public outcry for the,
You're going to need some more wine, by the way.
I'm going to do it
to
right
it.
now. But anyway, so long story short, we don't know. All we know is from right now that they gave him a DUI and he blew a 0.082, and that was down at the jail, and he was let out that morning. So, I mean, if he gets
That was
arrested
probably with the full calibrated machine.
Right.
We call it the data master here. Is this something different down there?
Yeah, it's different down here. And you're typically, if you're going to report a number in a police report, that's the one that it's going to be, because just what you were just saying a minute ago. I mean, your PBT should be calibrated, but it's not calibrated.
Are the PBTs admissible in court, or is it just the breathalyzer at the Intox Center?
The PBT is only admissible as positive or negative results for alcohol unless the person is underage. So then you can give a number, but if they're 21 or over, all they're allowed to ask you is, was the results positive or negative for alcohol? And you just say positive or negative.
We can only use PBT, preliminary breath test, as a probable cause. It is another chain, right? Like we don't need the PBT. If you do SFSTs, you can arrest somebody without the PBT. And a lot of people think, if I don't take the PBT, then they can't arrest me because they won't have the number. That's nonsense. The PBT is used as one of the things that would be in a chain of probable cause to determine whether or not they're going to make an arrest or not, or whether they truly have probable cause to believe you are operating under the influence of alcohol. So
yeah, absolutely. And it should be the last thing
yes,
it should really be the last thing. And most really tuned up DWI cops are going to tell you in court, but they're going to tell you anytime. The only reason I'm using a PBT is to see if the impairment that I'm seeing is on alcohol or another drug. So like I don't really, me personally, I didn't care nothing about the PBT unless the person wanted to see it. And most of the time it will develop a rapport with the person that you're arresting, because you can say, hey, you didn't do really well on those tests. And they get, they're going to call BS on you and basically say, I did great on them, or I couldn't, or nobody can do those tests, or whatever. That has nothing to do with, how impaired you think I am. And then you say, well, I can offer you a breath test here and it could show you, do you know what the limit is? And they go, well, yeah, the limit's an 08, 42. And you're like, see, that's why
they should be dead.
Yeah. Right. That's why you're not wearing pants. It's not. So it's it's a great tool to have where you can use it, but
let's dispel some of these myths. If I say I wash my mouth out with Listerine because I didn't have bad breath when I was making out with Brittany Faulkner, I didn't want Imperial Girl to smell my nasty booze breath, and I switched around some Listerine. Will the Listerine make my PBT reading go higher?
So the answer would be yes and no. If you switched around with Listerine right now, spit it out, and I gave you a PBT, then yes, for a few seconds it would spike. But that's why
such a hot blow. Oh yeah.
And we make very sure that we ask, have you had anything to eat or drink in the last 5 minutes, last 15 minutes, whatever the number is you think is most beneficial. But if you do like Mike said, and you use the PBT at the end, you're been with them for 10 or 15 minutes anyway. So you've been watching them. So unless they're pounding Listerine while you're just sipping on some Listerine, which would be a bad move on your part to let them do that, then no, it doesn't.
Oh, look, you got a pizza in the back seat. You want to share this?
Yeah. The biggest one is cigarettes. I mean, cigarettes doesn't affect the PBT, but most people
like cigarettes.
When they get stressed out, they're like, can I smoke a cigarette? And I'm like, let's just get through these tests and then you can smoke a cigarette. But no, the Listerine thing is not going to do anything. You can put a penny in your mouth. You're just going to be gross and drunk.
Oh God!
Eat a slice of bread. Soak up that alcohol.
You can eat a slice of bread, and you'll just be less hungry and drunk. You can do a bunch of push-ups, and you'll just be tired and drunk. I mean, funny story, but I had a guy who was going into the Marine Corps, and super nice. He was very nice to me, but he was like, I think if I get a DWI, they're not going to let me in the Marines. And I said, I have no idea. Yeah, I can't tell you that. I don't want to speak on that, but I get it if you think that. He said, exercise will make you burn off the alcohol. And I said, well, I don't think so. And he was like, do you care if I do push-ups? And we were the only people in the breath test room. And I said, man, I don't care if you do push-ups. That joker did like 87 push-ups. And
he was like Ray Cashcare.
Yeah. And he's like, he walks up to the counter, I'm on one side of the counter, he's on the other for the Intox. And he was like, what do you think is going to happen? I was like, I think you're going to need to rest for a second because you're not going to be able to blow for about 4 to 5 seconds that you're going to need to. And then you're going to see that you're still drunk. But you know, it's, we're getting a deep lung sample. So we're getting like a sample of the alcohol basically dissipating off of the blood vessels in your lungs. It's not like I'm checking for how much alcohol is in your mouth. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what I don't want to do. I don't want to see how much alcohol is in your mouth.
Because there's probably not going to be much there because it's probably been an hour since you pulled them over, did all your bullshit tests, drove all the way down to the jail, checked them into the jail, got them searched, and then got them in the DWI room. There's probably no alcohol in their mouth.
Yeah. And
so it's either good or bad for them. It's good if they're on the way down, then they'll be lower. But if they're on the way up, they'll be higher at the full breath test.
Yeah. And the only time that like you can really mess up with the DWI stuff is if they're driving around open container. You know, if I stop Tansey and he's got this gas station wine here in his cup holder, and I'm talking to him, I see the open bottle,
and you're like, "Where are you coming from?" And I just look at you and I say, "Your mom's house."
Right, and you just chug that wine.
Yeah,
like that's a bad day for me because now I got to prove, especially as a rookie cop, it's much more difficult. I got to prove that like you were impaired before I stopped you. Not the number that I'm getting off of the Intox instrument downtown.
So always keep an open beer.
Now, what do you do?
In your
do you,
car,
like,
just in case.
Do you snatch me by the hair as I'm trying to chug that wine and yank me out of the car?
So with DWI stuff, I always try to talk to the people outside their car for a myriad of reasons. But one being that there's a good chance, I shouldn't say probably, but there's a good chance they got a bottle somewhere in their car or the rest of the beer that they were, pre-gaming with before they went to the bar or whatever. So if I leave them in their car and walk back up there, then that's my luck is they're going to have cracked a cold one by the time I get back up there. Or, impaired people make bad decisions. So if there is a weapon in the car or something like that, they may try to hurt themselves or me, which should always be a concern, of police nowadays. But also one of the first questions a good defense attorney is going to ask you is, are you sure that odor you were smelling was coming from their breath or from their car? Because my client said he did spill half a bottle of wine in his seat. So maybe you weren't smelling it on his breath. So if you can stand on the side of Capitol Boulevard and talk to me this distance and I can smell alcohol coming off of your breath, then that works better for my police report than.
But what if Raleigh just smells like alcohol in general?
Like, what if I was working at my distillery and I spilled rum on myself all day, which every time I bottle, but you know what? I purposefully, I've never been drunk at my distillery ever. I've never had more than 2 drinks. That's a lie. One time I had 3. One time I had 3. One time I had 3. I had three drinks.
I've never been drunk. That's a lie. I have never been drunk. Yeah, that's a lie too.
But I did have 3 drinks in the span of like 6 hours. But the most drinks I've ever had at my distillery is 3. Now on Veterans Day, 2 years ago, I set out to get drunk at my distillery and I didn't make it past a drink and a half. Drinking to excess does not excite me. And I'm too into everybody else and doing things that I don't need to keep drinking. It's not a thing for me. So, but we bottle once, twice a week and rum is all over me when we bottle. I mean, because it sprays off of the nozzle. So that's the reason why I make it such a rule that I do not drink anywhere near around my distillery, because if I get pulled over for anything, I'm getting pulled out of the car because I smell like a distillery and I don't want there to be any chance of me getting a DUI attached to my distillery. So I don't drink there.
But where are you at now?
I'm 3 glasses of wine in. Let me take this last sip and then you want to blow me?
I'm not falling for that again. The other thing about you good?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing about that is like I have arrested people before. Raleigh has a ton of not distilleries. What do you call it? Breweries.
Yep.
And they get it all over them too. And that's why we don't hang our hat on any one clue. Like, unless you just absolutely have to, we don't hang our hat on any one clue. It's like, hey man, you reek of alcohol. Hop out and let's do some tests.
How many times do people pass the test?
All the time.
And you let them go? Because there's another myth that if you get pulled out, you're automatically going to fail these tests.
I have done field sobriety tests and let people go way more than I have done field sobriety tests and arrested them.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So you've let more people go than you've arrested.
I mean, if you pass the test, you pass the test.
Because I mean, all my friends say that if you get pulled out of the car, you're going to jail.
You must hang out with some nefarious people.
That's just the word on the street.
So we don't even know when it comes back to Paul Pelosi. We have no idea if they did standardized field tests or if they just did a PBT, or we don't know how they conducted this stop. We don't have the information.
It was a wreck, right?
Yeah, it was a wreck. And the parts of the affidavit that I was able to see, and this is crazy because typically Mike and I don't have a problem finding affidavits. But on this one, I couldn't find it, but Fox News is the only one that's reporting on this too. And CNN's not reporting on it. Nobody else is. And I don't like the way that Fox News is reporting on it because, again, it's too many salacious accusations that are unfounded or unable to be backed up. But they say in the affidavit that it read that he had the red glossy eyes. He smelled of alcohol, and he had slurred speech and was able to walk steadily on his feet.
Yeah, was able to or was not?
Was not able to.
So, one of the things that's excuse me, bad for celebrities and famous people is we've all heard them talk. You know what I mean? So one of the things that people try to fight in court a lot of times is, well, how do you know my guy just doesn't slur his speech all the time? And unless
let's refer back to Batman 2 when he's
exactly. So this guy's, has talked in front of people for a long time. So you got that, unsteady on their feet. It's funny because a lot of the clues that like the attorneys make us articulate and sit on the stand sweating it out for hours and explaining are the exact same clues that like if a 10-year-old saw a drunk person walk in here, they go, that guy's drunk.
Guy's drunk as shit. I actually wrote one of my report. He tore his shirt off, similar to Hulk Hogan entering the ring in WCW 19. And I had gone and done my research because I'm a smart ass.
WCW 19.
And I had done my research on when Hulk Hogan, famously ripped off his shirt, and I had put that all in the report. And on the stand, they asked me, Mr. Tansey, how did Hulk Hogan rip off his shirt?
And you did it.
And I said,
did they wheel in a VHS? The TV on the
judge said, the judge stopped and said, I'm not sure that we need to go over this. I think that's articulate enough. I think everybody knows how Hulk Hogan rips off. Does anybody in here not familiar with how Hulk Hogan rips off his shirt? And everybody was like, nobody said anything. Dude, it was Oster Poops.
Only had 2 beers, brother.
And he was sitting in the crowd and he was extremely embarrassed that I put that in my report. And then when the judge said, no, I think we're good. I think everybody here understands how Hulk Hogan rips off his shirt when entering the ring. And the lieutenant at the time was like, just put his hand on his head and, well, all right, let's blow me. I'm 3 glasses of wine in. This has been a great dinner. We're not even close to done yet, but I want to get blown real quick and see where I'm at right now.
He means me to give him a PBT for those of you not watching.
Right. Blow into
it gets real quiet. What's going on?
Real good. You're doing a real good job. You're a professional. Boy, that feels like a long time to blow. That feels like a lot. Davies says that he guesses I'm going to be a 0.27.
No.
He says
nope. You'd be 0.027.
Well, the point is
you'd
to get
be
to
dead
an
if you were
08.
a point. Well, you would
05
be dead
right now. We're to 05.
I'm in an 05.
Wow.
I'm feeling randy. Let me tell you how I feel. I'm going to be honest with you. Look, I am a sommelier. I am a certified specialist of wine. When I graduated when I took the certified specialist of wine, I was one of just over 600 CSWs in the country. So wine is my thing. I really do love wine.
Gay people in the world.
I do a lot of wine research and a lot of wine studies. I have gone to wine tastings where we've tasted 40 wines before lunch. I was ignoring it because I'm a 0.05. But I'll just tell you honestly how I feel right now. A little lightheaded. I would not drive right now.
Okay, perfect. I was so hoping you would say that because we do, Mike, I'm sure you guys do these in Michigan too, but we do the controlled drinking labs, right? Where people volunteer and they say, hey, it's very similar to this, except we literally use a graduated cylinder. You pour out a certain amount of alcohol, you give it to them, and you PBT them throughout the exercise, and you say, hey, would you drive now? And they normally at about 2 to a 3, they go, yeah, I mean, I would, I'd be careful, but I drive now. I would say 85% of the time at an 05 or an 06, they go, absolutely not. There's no way I would drive right now. I am messed up as a cricket in a hubcap right now. There is no way I could drive. And then And then when they get to like an 08 or a 10, they're like, I could land a plane full of kindergartners right now. Like there is absolutely.
If there was a school full of kindergartners
stick.
being shot, I'd go in there.
Yeah.
I'd
Save all of them.
I'd land a plane full of people right now, no problem. In the bush,
I could feed a baby with a backhoe right now.
Jesus.
If I had to. And I'm like, that's where you start to see that mental
That
impairment.
overconfidence.
But I'll say at
Yep.
a 0.05 right now, if my wife was like, honey, I'm done, I want to leave, I want to go home, I would be the guy right now. I would be the dude that goes into the bathroom, looks in the mirror, and talks to myself. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Are you good, dude?
Fixes your
I
hair.
think you're good. I think we could do this. I think we could.
Looks for nose hairs.
Let's Uber. Let's Uber. I don't feel comfortable.
Right.
I would be having those debates, and I always say, like, even in poker, if I have to debate whether I want to call or fold, I fold every time. And this would be one of the times where I say, yeah, if I have to ask, I'm gonna go ahead and fold it.
Yeah.
But I feel good though.
Yeah,
I feel good. You're
And
handsome.
this
You're
has
a lot
been-
more
this
handsome than
has
when you
been,
walked in.
This just goes to show you that you can get to that line pretty quick because
40
I mean,
minutes?
we've only been live for 57 minutes. You know,
I didn't
so
start
like
drinking until 10 minutes.
3
in.
glasses. You go to dinner and drinks with some friends, and all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, I'll have that third one. All right,
Yep.
one more, and it's 4, and you've done that one more 2 times, and then all of a sudden you're getting in that car, like you kind of get that confidence, and wow, yeah, I'm an 8 or I'm a 10. You know,
Yep. And that's where people do the best time in a big city to stop to look for impaired people is like 20 minutes after last call, because people get to that level that Tansey's at right now. They've had a plan. They came to the bar with a plan. They're like, hey, I know that at about 2.5 glasses of wine, I'm good to drive. And then somebody comes around and goes, hey man, let's have one more. And they're like, sure. They slug it back. They blink the lights or whatever people do in clubs and bars now. And you get in your car and drive home. And when you got in your car, you might have been an 05, and now you start processing that alcohol, and 10 miles down the road,
you're not getting better.
No, you're an 09. You can drink way faster than you can metabolize alcohol.
Yeah. Thick Humidog asked, does Tansey normally prefer white over red? If you listened to last call yesterday where we had the guy from Ripback on, I don't discriminate white versus red. All grapes are white in the middle. And they only become red when you add the skins to them. So all wine is white wine until you add the skins. So no, I think I like white wine just as much as I like red wine. Just depends on what we're having for dinner or what the mood is. I don't know that drinking red wine in the middle of the day is very fun, especially when it's the summer. White wine's a little bit more refreshing, but I am drinking Chardonnay today, and it's from Napa Valley Chardonnay. And Napa Valley Chardonnay starts at about $20. I did not want to spend $20 on an afternoon drunk fest, so I found an appellation just next to Napa. So we're within like 3 miles of Napa Valley. But the wine I'm drinking today is a private select from Robert Mondavi. It doesn't mean shit. And it's a fine wine. It's a very buttery Chardonnay. And it's from Acampo, California, which is just outside of Napa. But because Paul Pelosi was in Napa, I felt like I should drink Napa wine.
Very apropos.
Very apropos.
So what else do we know?
Is my voice slurred? Is my voice slurred at a 0.05? Am I slurring my speech at all?
No.
I'm still pretty able to articulate.
You're
things.
very chatty.
Okay. I'll shut up.
You're chatty, loose, giggly. But what else do we know about this case? That any other research that you got?
So here's where the case gets really funny. One, I do agree with them not releasing the body cam. However, that is not the norm. Not of 2022. We're releasing the body cameras, and anything that's questionable, especially if it's against the police, which there is an apparent war on police right now, as we see with the Breonna Taylor thing, several other cases across the country that are popping up all of a sudden during midterm elections. But in this case, they're not releasing the body camera, which is strange. And then the judge, the night before the arraignment, quits. And they bring in a judge who has never tried a criminal case.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. They bring in a new judge who was the previous DA, and she is a registered Democrat. And she took donations from the now DA who was appointed by Gavin Newsom. And so there's definitely this
Little home cooking.
Yes. And that's the night before the trial. And so she is a black female. And I'm trying to find
the
her
night before
name.
the arraignment.
The night before the arraignment, which, and her name is Judge Langhorne. And Judge Langhorne is a black female who is a registered Democrat, who this is her first case. And for unknown reasons, and we don't know where he went, which is not as salacious as it sounds, because he could have just retired. Who fucking knows? Or he could have went to a different level of court, like a different, we call it floor.
Yeah.
Because the floors of a courthouse cover different things. He might have went to divorce court. Who knows?
Or the attorneys have the inside track and know that was going to, they scheduled the arraignment strategically for after they know when.
Well, that's
that's
also very possible. I mean, that happens here. So like,
right.
I would say that to go off Tansey's point about the war on cops right now, my guess would be that the body camera footage is pretty damning for the suspect. If it was damning for the cops, we'd have already seen it. Exactly.
Correct.
So they get rid of, they don't show the body camera footage, which is what Fox News should have just stayed on these three facts. They won't release the body camera footage, which is odd for this time. The judge is switched the night before the arraignment, and we can add all the donations and everything in there too. And then 3, they did not allow any camera or any journalist in the courtroom for the arraignment. And Paul Pelosi was seen first, even though it typically goes by alphabetical order. So that goes to stand.
Special
because you're a
treatment
celebrity, should you in the United States of America be allowed these kind of I'm a 0.05. What's the word I'm looking for?
Privileges.
No,
the only thing I would say out of there that
it's a drinking.
The only thing I would say there that I would be perfectly fine with is, let's see him first. Because if you've ever been in a courtroom with somebody famous or semi-famous,
okay,
it's nuts. Especially if they were allowing the rest of the stuff. If you were allowed to have reporters in there and all that kind of stuff, and he's sitting in there awkwardly staring at the walls, like that's when everybody is doing the pass the notes and sneaky selfies and all that kind of stuff. So let's get him in here and out of here. That's fine.
Yeah, you're fine with that. And now, are you good? Do you think that the American public should have a right to see footage from the arraignment? Do you think that cameramen should be allowed in? I'll go and tell you, I don't think they should be allowed. Again, I like the respect and the dignity of court. And I think the problem that we have right now is everybody's demand for transparency, and it has retarded the court system, and it's turned it into more of guilty by media. So I'm all for it, but it needs to be across the board. You can't allow body camera footage and footage that you choose in the Uvalde case, but not let that happen in the Paul Pelosi case. You can't do it in the Breonna Taylor case and then not do it in the Paul Pelosi case.
No, I'm all for, praising in public and discipline in private. I'm fine with that, whether that be your kids or the bad guy in the courtroom. If the system was working like it was supposed to, you should just have faith that what's supposed to happen in that courtroom is going to happen, and you don't have to publicize it or whatever. But as far as being able to see the affidavit, that should be a document that you can get your hands on.
I think you can, except in this case, it's so buried down in Google.
Yeah.
It was something to show till page 10. Or I'd have to send out a lot of emails. Now, a lot of the cases that Mike and I work on, I mean, you can find it within page 2 or page 1 of your Google search. What are some of the craziest things? Because I'm trying to get to a 0.082, and I'm going to get there as quickly
keep drinking.
as I can.
Here, let's talk about the next phase of this too, because we talked about the PBT, then we talk about again, I'm so used to calling it the data master, that actual test. That's different than the PBT. Why is that test admissible in court and not the PBT?
Well, basically the only reason it's admissible in court is it sits in a controlled environment, which is either a police station or a detention facility, and a third party other than the police officer or the police department is calibrating that. So once a month or once every 30 days, once every 60 days, 90 days, whatever your state is, somebody from, with us, it's the forensic test for alcohol branch, which is a subset of the Department of Health and Human Services. They come in there. They've got a dry gas canister, which looks just like a miniature fire extinguisher canister, but it's blue instead of red. They hook it onto the thing. That canister is the gas in there is exactly at an 08. They calibrate it to exactly at an 08, and they pop smoke. So that's really the only reason that it's admissible in court, other than the fact that it's basically just a much bigger instrument with all the same guts, just a little bit more of them than this PBT.
And I have a question based on the questions in the chat room here. You know, with the technology in cars, right?
Yeah.
Like a Tesla can
Yep.
drive itself.
Yep.
Is it? I mean, if you're driving a Tesla, should you be able to be like a 0.085 because a Tesla is going to keep you in the lane better?
So it's crazy. A lot of those companies that are working on self-driving vehicles are also working on ambient sensors in the car that will not let the car drive itself with you in it if the breath coming out of your mouth inside the car is higher than a 0.08, which the problem with that is if I come pick you up and take you home and you're hammered, but I've had nothing to drink, and you sitting there for a little while, and now my Tesla shuts down on the side of 440, that would be difficult. But more states are going towards the 05 limit. Utah went to an 05 rather than an 08, which is less because of exactly what you did earlier when you said, yeah, I would not drive here. That's what most people say. And
which would be smart, because if you are at a 0.08, I don't know what I'm at now, but I'm feeling much better right now. I do have that like confidence thing, right? Like where I can just talk and
your eyes are glassy.
Okay.
Face is a little flushed.
Yeah, I'm sweating.
Yeah. Well, that's also
armpits are sweating.
842 degrees in here. You guys should look into air conditioning.
Palms are sweaty. Yeah, I was there. They need to fix the air conditioning. They're bad.
All right, ready? I'm gonna blow. That was a lot easier to blow that time, and I thought it went a lot quicker.
Time is distorted.
And I felt like I needed to tell you that.
Thank you. And that's the beauty of Mike. You were saying earlier you guys got tired of dealing with drunk people. I tell people all the time.
Oh my God.
That's how quick it went up, boys.
Oh,
he's at a 0.12 now.
0.12?
Yep. But he's had almost a whole bottle of wine.
Yeah, that was one bottle of wine gets me to a 0.12.
Well, you're not even done with that bottle yet. You still got a glass right there.
Dude,
I'm not encouraging you to finish at this point.
I'm having sex at 1:00 this afternoon.
Well,
no, you're not.
I'm leaving before
yes,
that.
Right here in front of God, country, and every one of our fans. So
the other thing is to keep in mind.
Sweden's legal limit is 0.02. Well, that sucks for you.
Well, we have an impaired driving law that if it's 0.04 and we feel that there's an impairment in their ability to drive or whatever else at that level, they can still be charged with impaired driving. It wouldn't be the same penalties as a full OWI, but still there. And I've arrested someone before who, let's say, for example, I felt that it was just on the border. And if it was on the border for me, then, I mean, there were definitely situations where I let people call for rides if they were on the border and different things like that. But if that person was not cooperative and they were on the line, I would rather err on the side of arrest than I would err on the side of let them kill somebody.
Yep.
After they left. So I would make that arrest. And then all of a sudden, like we get there in the data master or the breathalyzer, it's 0.03. You're like, well, I don't know why you were driving so bad, but I'll charge them with impaired, or whatever else. And maybe sometimes the DA would drop it. I don't care. At least I know that I was trying to do my part for making sure that this person wasn't going to like run over some kid out on his bike at 11 o'clock at night or something like that,
Right.
But the data master itself, once you get past that, what do you feel about the business of drunk driving? And do you feel like it's treated more about the money than it is about the crime itself at this point? Do you think people should be in prison? Like
that's the big reason I didn't try it, because I felt like it's a rich man's game. Like I think the wealthier you are, the more money you have, the less likely you're going to hold the DUI. Whereas, the younger person that doesn't have a lot of money is going to get a DUI every time. It's like a status symbol.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I used to get hung up on the whole, they're not getting punished hard enough for this, or it's just how good of an attorney you can afford or whatever. But then the longer I got into my career, the more I thought about it exactly like you just said. If I feel like you are too impaired to drive a vehicle and you would otherwise be driving a 3,000-pound bullet down the street, then I'm going to do the test, give you a fair shake at proving to me that you're not impaired. But if you're impaired, I'm going to take you down to the jail, and then it's up to whoever to decide what sort of punishment.
Does your mind change? So in this case, Fox News alleged that Paul Pelosi got out of the car and said, "Do you know who I am?" Now, he has no way to back that source up. His name is Jesse Matters.
Jesse Waters?
Jesse Waters. He's the only one reporting on this story. I don't know why it's that guy. Maybe that's Fox News's bombshell news dude or whatever, but he gave no sources in anything that he said. I've watched everything that he said about this case, no sources. But he says that Paul Pelosi got out of the car and said, "Do you know who I am?" I kind of believe it though, because I've heard it 1,000 times. When somebody gets out of the car and says, "Do you know who I am?" What goes through your brain? We just covered the Murdoch murders, which that played a big part in that case. When somebody says, "Do you know who I am?" You as a street level cop.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
There we go. We're back.
It's if somebody says, "Do you know who I am?" then what goes on in my head is, well, I guess I need to start taking really good notes, because they're fixing to tell me who they are. And if they think they're somebody special, then usually they've got some strings they can pull further down the line. So I'm just like, you know what? This is going to be one of those ones where I'm double checking. I'm looking down, making sure my body camera's on, making sure my car mic's hot, making sure that I'm doing all my safety things. I'm watching their hands. I'm watching their eyes. I'm all that good stuff, because if the next thing out of his mouth is, "I'm an axe murderer," then that's, bad. But if he says, "Yeah, I'm XYZ, I'm somebody famous," whatever, then that's when you got to make sure that you're just on your P's and Q's, right? You're being super respectful. You're gathering all the intel you can possibly gather. You want to make them know that, like, you're not out here looking for famous people. You just stop them for this particular violation. And if they can pass these particular tests, they're going to be on about their business. That's really the only thing.
Have you ever pulled somebody over that gave you that?
Oh yeah.
Can you tell us who?
No.
Oh, for me, it was a chief's son.
Yeah.
The old chief that fired me, her son. I arrested him twice. Once on a stolen moped, and
I will tell you how I don't watch news or TV hardly ever. I watch, like, when I say I don't watch TV, like current TV. But like I stopped somebody one time when they were a professional athlete, and hand me their driver's license, and you could tell that, like, they were trying super hard to be cool, and like, I don't want to tell this guy, "Hey, do you know who I am?" Obviously he knows who I am. Like, I don't want to be that guy. So he was super nice. All it was speeding. And I go back and I hand him his license back, and I was like, "I'm just going to give you a warning tonight, have a good evening." And there was this awkward silence then where I could tell he was kind of like, huh, like, he didn't even acknowledge that I'm somebody famous. I can't tell if I like that or hate that, but I didn't know who he was. And, when you call out the license plate, other people can run the tag, obviously, right? So there's like people just coming to check in with me. And when I finish, he's driving off, and I get back into my car. They're like, "Oh, dude, you just stopped so-and-so." I'm like, "Cool. Who is that?" And they told me, and I was like, "Oh,
should have got his autograph."
Yeah.
Sure. Like, "So you need a sign right here on this paper." He goes, "This is a NHTSA cues sheet. Why am I signing that?" "Sir, just go ahead and sign right here. It's really important."
Yeah, you need to sign this glossy photo of yourself. We give these to everybody.
That I just happen to have in my patrol car waiting for this very moment.
Nijkin, who sent me 20 pounds of Swedish chocolate last week. He's from Sweden. So I don't know if his name is Naj.
It's just called chocolate over
there. How do you pronounce it? Nijkin. He says, "Please finish with a since Eric left the department story. I'm sensing gold here. Is there anything that since Eric left the appointment Boy, that wine's kicking.
I left my department.
Is there any since Eric left the department stories? Like since he left, it all got better? I don't know. I guess that's what he's
No.
asking.
I mean, I think that since Eric left the department has gotten a lot less funny.
Okay.
Eric did have, I mean, I know he tells stories all the time, but Eric did have this sense about him that no matter what kind of call you're going to, like everyone but Eric is biting through their tongue and their bottom lip, trying their hardest not to laugh. And you're like, I know how inappropriate it would be to laugh right here, but I just can't not, because he's saying the stupidest stuff right now. But like, he's just deadpan, like straight face, just saying whatever he's saying. And it would just make it very difficult on scene, but very fun.
So I always felt the same way about you. I always thought that you had a really great sense of humor in the cases that we worked. I always thought you could say things that nobody else could say.
That's probably why they didn't let us work together.
That's probably it. What about you, Mike? Do you have any salacious DUI stories as I finish this last glass of wine?
No, salacious.
So I do have a really funny one that I tell to rookie cops, because I tell them like, hey, if you get so good, most of the time, if you get so good or so versed, I guess, in one type of crime, a lot of times you do accidentally become a one-trick pony and you're not good at the stuff you should be good at, because you're just so unifocused on one thing. So I'm driving down. I used to keep my car radio on one channel and my shoulder mic on the other channel, because I'm just going in and out of different districts all the time. So I would try to keep listening to two districts. So I've got my car mic on the district that I'm in, and my shoulder mic was on the district that I came from. So I get behind this car. They're just probably going 20, 30 mile an hour of the speed limit all over the place. I call it out on my car mic. He pulls over. I get out. I walk up. Well, evidently people had been trying to raise me up on the radio on the mic that I called on, but I'm on a different station. So I go up. This car's occupied 4 times. Driver smells like alcohol. I say, hey, can you get out? I'm going to do some field sobriety tests. So he's like, yeah, sure. Field sobriety test? I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, no problem. So I get out. I'm doing the HGN, which is horizontal gain nystagmus test. And I'm doing this number right here in his eyes. And I just hear cars like screeching tires behind me. So the first thing I thought was, man, somebody has slammed on brakes because they're watching me do tests and now they're about to run into me. So I turn around and all I see are takedown lights. There's light bar, just bright light takedown lights. And this just goes towards how much I had let my guard down. I turn around and I go, hey, bro, can you turn those lights off? I'm in the middle of doing field sobriety tests. And I can't see anybody because the lights are in my eyes. So then I hear, ruh, 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 ruh. And I was like, what in the world is going on? So then 3 SWAT dudes pull up, jump out of their car, and they got their rifle across the hood of the car. And one of our mutual good buddy, canine handlers, gets on the radio and goes, Cameron, can you walk back to your car, please? And I was like, all right. So I said, hey, can you just hang out right here? And he goes, yeah, sure. So I walk back to my car and I pass. I get the hand move, like don't walk around near my dog. He's going to bite you. And so I walk back and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, we've been calling you on the radio for like 4 or 5 minutes, but that's a murder suspect in a stolen car. And I was like, oh, well, he's also drunk. So not my proudest moment, but definitely a learning point.
And so that's the thing too, is people think that like when you run a car and you stop it, you know who's in that car. And that's not true, because people borrow cars all the time. People are, you never want to go off of what the computer says as biblical, if you will. This is me trying desperately to articulate things at whatever level of drunkenness I am. But you know, for somebody to say like, do you know who I am? You're like, well, no, I don't, because it's not really, I don't know who the fuck's.
And with all due respect, I actually don't care.
I really don't care. Like, you know, it's not like one of these things where we're like, oh, that's Mike the cop in front of me. Yeah. I ran the tag and it came back as Mike the cop.
Right.
I always thought it was Mike the cop.
No,
it's Mike.
No. His last name is the cop.
The cop. Yeah.
I thought the was his middle name too, but it's no. Mike
Pulled him over.
The cop.
Looked right at me and he said, you know who I am? And I said,
yeah, we do a podcast together.
Yeah, get out of the car. And then I beat him half to death with my baton. First time I've ever used my baton.
I just never liked doing the traffic stops where you don't want a drunk, but somebody like there was an egregious. Like,
Yeah.
you know you got to stop the car, right?
Driving the
And
wrong way down.
I was never like a traffic guy. Like it wasn't my. I pulled people over for the purpose of getting warrants or dope or whatever. You know, like I stopped cars with a purpose that was beyond the violation itself normally. But sometimes you do have a responsibility as a cop in your community that if someone's doing something, you're like, I got to stop this car. Like that guy can't be driving like that, you know, whatever. And then you walk up and the window comes down and you're like, oh, damn it. Now I'm in this for the next hour and a half or 2. Now, okay, great. Yeah. You know,
and a DWI is one of those ones you can't hand off. Like you can, but it's not. If you hand it off, you're still
do it.
You're still part of it.
You can easily hand it off.
Yeah, but we've had them before. You hand one to me, and then it's like, yeah, but you still got to come to court. And that's where it gets so difficult. But for me, Mike, it was always we typically worked 6P to 4A. So you want to find a drunk, you know, from 6P to 2A.
Right.
You want to find one. For me, it was always like I'm 2 miles from home. And there's a guy, you know, standing in the middle of the street, peeing, got out of his car to pee, or got out of his car to throw up, or they've been asleep at the stoplight for 20 minutes and you get behind them. And then you're like, man, this is going to be another 2 or 3 hours.
You know, I pulled a girl over who fell asleep at a red light, and she was very pretty. She was probably in her late 30s. And I pulled her out of the car, tried to explain to her that she was sleeping. She said she was not. However, somebody called, said she was sleeping. It probably took me another 5 minutes to get there, and she was still there. And so we do the whole DUI rigmarole, and I don't even know where I was going with this story. However, if I was going to go home and go to sleep right now, I would do it on a ghost bed. And right now there's a limited time only flash sale for ghost bed.
Drunk Eric can remember an ad read. I love it.
Well, the funny thing is this isn't even part of the ad read because right now, if you use the promo code Wolfpack, damn it, Mike, we were supposed to do a real ad read today because it was supposed to be made into a video later. That's not going to happen.
We can make a video later.
We can make a video later, but right now, GhostBed is offering a limited time only. By the way, the reason why we love GhostBeds is they're made in the good old USA. It's just me. Nobody's going to back me up here. Nobody's going to back me up here. 35% off of everything right now. If you use that promo code Wolfpack. But if you want to take advantage of their limited flash sale, the luxury adjustable bases are on sale. The bedding, pillows, and accessories online on their website is 25% off. If you use our promo code for a limited time, 35% off, baby. All award-winning mattresses, 35% off. Adjustable base bundles, 35% off, although their site has 40% off. Memory foam toppers, 3D matrix mattress, then it doesn't matter. All of the shits. It's all 35% off. It's a terrible ad read. If you use the Wolf, Mike, you like a ghost bed, right? You tell them.
I never want to get out of mine in the morning. That's legitimate truth.
It's the only thing I've ever bought from any ad ever, from any show ever. And it was I think it's probably my best purchase.
You spend a third of your life on a mattress.
I wake up with no aches.
More if you are a woman of the night. That could be more. Maybe that's maybe more time in a passenger seat.
Yeah.
I don't know where you spend most of your time.
These are award-winning mattresses.
But
I bet that is a awesome award show to go to. The 2022 Mattress Awards.
Oh, right now we have Cameron sleeping on the
I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and Ghost Bed for all of the good sleep I've had. All right.
Before we close this,
where are you at? I want to know where your final numbers are.
We'll get there, but before we go,
before
we go, oh, my wife says when his Ross voice, when he does his Ross voice, he is drunk. Honey, you know you like the Ross voice. You know it's something you've asked for before. You said, "Hey, honey, can you?"
All right, here we go.
Can you do the Ross voice for me?
Ready?
And I say, "Of course I
Ready?
can." If you guys have any, I can't
do it.
That's a lot. Let me get a deeper breath. If you have any questions we got 10 minutes left on this. Send us your questions right now.
10 minutes
and
left.
we will
Where do you
answer
get these random numbers from. We can stop anytime we want. It's our show.
Why is he death gripping the mic?
Okay, hold on. Let me do one more.
Not allowed to laugh in the.
All right, hang on. All right. Let me take a couple deep breaths. Let me mature it up a little bit. This
Keep
is
going with
embarrassing.
your 10-minute story, and I'll set it up.
If you have any questions for Mike or the DUI expert, put them in the chats now. The end. The end.
We're gonna get your number, and it's gonna be the end. Trust me.
Yeah. You guys
Boy, am I
should
sweaty.
have gotten sponsored
Boy,
by
am I-
Uber.
Boy, am I
For this.
sweaty. No, my wife is actually coming to pick me up right now. And my kids are out of town with the grandparents today because we knew that today was going to be a bad day.
All right,
and
ready?
we didn't want my kids to
Deep
see
breath,
me
blow
in
out.
this
Deep breath and
manner.
blow.
I did it.
Congratulations. I always try to encourage people. Stay positive. You did really good there. Thank you.
You did good. That was a good blow.
Appreciate you doing that right.
You blew for me real well. You blew for me real good. Nightkin says, Eric, do you want any Swedish rum and vodka? If you sent me Swedish rum, well, Nightkin, I gotta send you some American rum.
Did we get a number on that?
Yeah, he's
Let me
back.
do
He's
that.
back down to a 9, which means that 12 was probably some alcohol on his breath, some alcohol in his mouth a little while ago. So
Oh, it's a placebo effect. I'm
he's back
completely
down
sober. I
to a
can drive.
9, which is real close to the number of that we were talking about earlier.
That's very
Which
close
was-
where Paul was.
Yep.
And if that's where Paul was, that's where all.
I would not trust Eric to drive me in a vehicle.
Yeah,
right
I would not get in a.
This
If
is
I
when
was
I'd
if
take
I
the
was
keys from
sober at a restaurant with Eric right now, I'd be like, yeah, I think I should be driving for sure. So you guys need to be
If
careful.
you could
out
see
there.
Eric right now. Yeah, please be careful. There's really no excuse for driving drunk anymore. Just call a ride. You got like so many different ways to get a ride. Just get one.
No, that's crazy to me. It's like at my distillery on a Friday night, which I'll be there tonight, which is going to be very weird because I'll be hungover, I guess, working tonight.
Or you can just keep drinking. You won't be hungover yet.
Yeah, man, that's the best way to stay on the wave is to keep riding.
I'm going to sober up by having sex. That's what I do when I get drunk. I have lots of sex.
No, you
But
don't.
no, when people leave my distillery, I'm always
true.
like, hey, I'll pay for their Uber every time. I don't want somebody to leave my distillery intoxicated because it is that easy. Like it's that easy. Call somebody. There's 1,000 people that generally want to be a hero, right? Like we see this with the Uvalde thing.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wants to be a hero.
Oh, I
People
got
wanna
called
fucking
at 3
die.
last night, and I had to go get Eric. People like that story.
They love that story. They're like, man, I had to get up at 3 a.m. Drive down to
Put on my good sweatpants and go get Eric.
drive down to.
Well,
Eric's
if Eric calls me at
girlfriend's
3 a.m., my phone is. I don't even care. You have to have my wife's number because she's the only one that has a phone on. Because I turn my shit on do not disturb when I go to bed, and I ain't hearing any phone or text message until I get up.
Oh, did your wife tell you that I called last night?
Yeah, I was wondering where she went, but
Just kidding. No, I mean, drinking and driving though is a foolish thing. Like obviously, we've seen a lot of terrible things happen. Definitely don't condone it.
No,
I don't condone it.
absolutely not.
What else do you have going on right now? You've got a lot of things going on. Do you want to make it a plug? Do you want people to follow you somewhere? Is there a business that you
He's already
own on
said he
the
doesn't
side?
watch TV. No.
Man, I don't have a lot of stuff for you to follow. So my business partner and I can say his name. He said I could, right? Matt Van Antwerp, a great cop, somebody you used to work with. We manage a corporate security business called Foresight Solutions. Our website is www.foresightsolutions.co. And we do active shooter training and workplace violence training, conflict resolution.
Now, did you
stuff.
start that after Uvalde?
No, this has been about 2. This has been.
Did
but
you make
it
any
got
of-
a lot busier.
Right. Did you make any Uvalde videos where you shit on all of the officers and called all of them cowards and
No.
then did a sales pitch on your own
I did not.
training video?
I would not
That's
do that.
interesting.
You never have any. I mean, you have no idea what kind of training some of these departments get, and we don't do a lot of training, honestly, for police departments. Ours is more for like, hey, what should you do as your business when the bad thing happens and you're calling the police and they're coming here? What can you do to help them make this a successful environment? And we have gotten pretty busy because of all of this. I mean, how many shootings we have had in this year is nuts. Like it really does just blow my mind. Now I do get that the media probably calls more things a mass incident than they might used to, but it's absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. And I love you guys' business. I love that you guys have blown up and that you guys are all still. I know Antwerp. He's one of his daughters doing the.
Nope,
it's not him.
He don't have any kids.
That's the guy that he looks like. What's his cohort's name?
Eric's drunk. Time to sign off.
Well, yep, that's a
Right,
good sign that
well.
we are down to the end of this one, guys. Here's the deal, Paul Pelosi. You know, there's not a lot of details, and that's the scary part. There's no consistency. If Paul Pelosi gets to 0.08 and drives and gets in an accident, it's very hard to find the information, and then there's special treatment in court. And if you do, you're not going to get the same treatment as Paul Pelosi. Okay. So don't get to a 0.08 and get in a car and drive. Don't risk it. There's just no, it's a completely preventable tragedy. Driving intoxicated and hurting yourself or someone else is like, it causes so many accidents, so many deaths every year. And it is one of those things that is completely from start to finish a preventable situation with just a little bit of forethought and planning ahead on your part to have someone, you know, get that designated driver, use Uber. You know, there's no excuses. It's 2022, man. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us today.
If you want to get hammered,
seeing what
like
0.08
button.
looks like.
If you want to get hammered, hammer the like button. That's a good way to get hammered.
And go to Instill Distilling tonight while Eric will be hungover and bartending.
Would you like a strawberry daiquiri? No, but if you would, hammer that like button, and you can. Well, don't drive and hammer the like button either. That's not safe.
All right. So if you stuck through this whole clickbait video, we appreciate you, or audio. Awesome to hang out with you guys, and we will see you next time.